Deborah, with her 30 years of being an entrepreneur and creating over 7 companies, knows exactly what it means to accept the mission. When you make that decision, when you accept the mission to become a solopreneur, to take yourself and your talents to market, then you embrace a life of not only unlimited possibilities, but also the unknown. It's an elixir of fear and bravery that only someone who's taken the leap really understands. On our show, Deb digs deep with her guests to highlight what you, the listener, wants to know. The stories, the whys, and the hows to navigate the journey to success. Get ready to hear from some of the most incredible mission takers from Generation Z to Boomers. So sit up, perk up, and get ready to be blown away. Now here is your host, Deborah Drummond.
You guys are the biggest heart-centered listeners that any podcast host has the pleasure of calling subscribers. You guys rock. Mission accepted. You're like, oh gosh, you haven't introduced us like that ever. What do we have going on today? Right? You guys are the best. You guys are the best. I get to get up every morning and meet the coolest people, and you guys are part of that. So I'm super grateful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Mission accepted. If you haven't watched Barbara Frankson's first, what should I call it? Episode. It's bigger than an episode. If you haven't heard her ever, you're in for a treat. After you watch this one, we're doing this 6 times. We're doing a 6 series on transforming you, turning your pain into passion and joy and love. And here's a word that we hear a lot about, and sometimes it's got a glaze to it. The word forgiveness, right? Like we do an automatic. I just said the word forgiveness and you guys automatically went, or that's awesome, or no thank you, or yeah, I know what that means. But there's something about Barbara that's going to get you to dig down. Take those letters apart and understand forgiveness in a whole different way that relates to transformation. Look, we have a lot of people that come onto the show. The show's called Mission Accepted. You have heard from the most incredible athletes, parents, artists, actors, entrepreneurs. I mean, people doing all sorts of incredible things. It reminds me of Dennis, where he has they blow things up, like a rock busting world. But everyone took that big mission. Everyone said yes. And you get to hear about it in the ways where people decided to make a pretty monumental change. Why I have Barbara with us for the time that we have her is because she talks about the stuff that makes up the change. Like, those big things that you do, there was a lot of things that you decided beforehand. And sometimes you embraced it, and sometimes it scared you, and sometimes you won, and sometimes it won. And here's the truth. Every time you get to that next level that you want to move out, you need to go and have a session with a woman like this, or a call with a woman like this, or a mentorship conversation, or a mentorship wine, or whatever. Because as we grow, those things re-enter our life, and we have to look inside. So she's kind of like this inside job kind of lady. So I'm going to let her just kind of go with it. If you haven't heard her story, this is Barbara Frankson, and she is a motivational speaker. She is an inspirational speaker. She truly has turned her pain into passion and joy. And I almost want to say like escapism, in the sense of she's had reprieve. And some of us have had mini reprieves. We've been able to come up for air, but she truly, when you see her, you can see that her baggage has been replaced by wings. That's the only way I can put it. So Barbara, please come to the stage today and do share that next phase of transformation and joy and forgiveness.
Yeah. Thanks again for the great introduction. I am always humbled. Walking in love was very hard for me, right? It was hard. You can't have love and hate at the same time. You can't have love and anger at the same time. One of the things that I used to always say in my head is slow to anger, quick to listen, slow to speak. Slow to anger, quick to listen, slow to speak. And one of the things is when you're walking in love, first, you have to walk in forgiveness, right? because part of that journey, I remember one of my transformational trips, we did what we called roundtables, transformation roundtables. And they were on attitude, two things, attitude and forgiveness. And I remember going to this establishment, and the co-coach that I had, the woman from HR said, can we do forgiveness first? Because there's a lot of unforgiveness in this company. And the co-coach, she'd been doing it longer than me, and I'm just sitting there, and she said, no. And she said, because there's a process. And she said, we have to get rid of the attitude before we can go into forgiveness. So no, forgiveness has to come once you change your attitude. So the precursor also to loving, you got to change your attitude. You can't be angry. You can't be mad. People used to say to me all the time, Barbara, you look mad. I'm not mad. What are you talking about? My words. People go by, action speaks louder than words. Well, it looks like you're mad. You're doing this, you're doing that. And people are like, but I'm not angry. So you have to learn to forgive, but they work together. They work together. So many times, right? Make choices. And some of our choices is what we'd say, oh, that was not a good choice. But the funny thing is, as I'm sitting in my kitchen, right? And I have a wall right here, and a contractor was working on that wall. And he was going through some things, and he went over a little bit too far. And he looked back and he said, Barbara, I'm so sorry. The cement wasn't in yet. And he's like, Barbara, I'll do it over. You spend so much money. And I said, no, leave it. And he goes, what? You know, a woman's kitchen is a castle.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on?
Especially now, because we've learned to work from home. So it's your castle. And that's where the conversation starts. So I said, no. Like right now, I'm looking over at it. I said, I always want to remember that I'm imperfectly perfect. And when people come in and they see the wall, they say, how unique is that? They don't even see the imperfection. They just think that it's unique. So part of that is taking those choices and saying, you know what? None of us is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And stop beating ourselves up. Loving yourself is a choice. It's a choice. And my thing is this, right? You teach people how to treat you. And if you don't love yourself or you don't walk in forgiveness, one thing I have to say is small action create great change. That's what we used to do. When we did the round tables, I'd have them right on the top. Small action creates great change. And that's what it is. It just takes a little step. You know, when's the last time you did something good for yourself? And I don't mean doing your nails or doing this, or just something good. Just something that you would normally, we'll do for others, something we won't do for ourselves. And if you don't believe me, go talk to a single mom. She'll go cut her son's hair, and her hair is growing, and just keep doing it, making sure we make sacrifices. So part of that as women, because we're bearers, we're givers, we got to learn to give stuff to ourselves and love. They say love takes care of everything, because guess what? If you do everything in love, wish is very hard. Wish is very hard, but practice makes almost perfect. And because we're imperfectly perfect, then it's great. So one of the things I always say, do it in love and practice it. And don't beat yourself up. But for those of you who didn't see the first one, it's about the baggage, right? So you can't, you have to embrace all of you. And that means forgiving. And one of the things that I've done in practice with forgiveness is this: have a release party. You got to release some things. And what that means is, even if it's you got to release some people. So you take a pen, don't use this, because something happens when you take a pen in your hand. It's connected to your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm aging myself when I say letters, but I'm telling you, it's so much different than clicking. And you take that pen, and if you have to write a letter to yourself, I would do a mindful exercise. Just keep writing people that have hurt you, and then write yourself things that you have not forgiven, and then write a letter. And you have a choice. You can burn the letter, you can throw the letter away, you can give the letter. And if the person is not here anymore, because sometimes that person isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of issues with my mom. And my mom died when I was, oh my goodness, when I was 19, 20.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not gone into the other part of me. Like I say, the angry person,
Mm-hmm.
angry in love, hate in love. You can't, you get mad. You hear your kids say, oh, I hate you. No, you don't hate me. You hate the rules. Right?
Yeah.
It's real easy. But if you don't get an opportunity, because no one knows when someone is going to leave.
Right.
Right? So if you don't get an opportunity to say, I'm sorry to that person, and you carry it with you, and you don't forgive yourself, it weighs you down.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs you down, and it stops you also from seeing your purpose, from living a fulfilled life or peace. You can't have fulfillment and peace if you don't have love and forgiveness.
So your recommendation about putting yourself on that letter is all the things that you kind of like, I should have called, or I should have known better. I should have known better to take that deal, or to date that person, or to stay in that job too long, and just having a release party. That's great. I think of an album when you say release party, but isn't it a celebration, right? Like it's a celebration
of you. When you listen to a love song, right? Because that you like music. When you listen to, I love music too, because it's a universal language. Even if it's a different language, the beat, something about it just goes to you. Just sometimes you don't know what you're listening to, but I like the beat, right? So there's something about that. So you have to write down, sometimes it's your choices. And you're like, okay, what did I learn from that? What did I learn from it? What is the lesson? There is something in every choice that you've made. And guess what? You can turn around and say to that person, no, you might not want to do that because I did that. And this is what happened, because we're all walking around with stories that could help each other. And here's one of them. Some people will tell you everything and some people will tell you nothing. But I always say, before you can show up for others, you have to show up for yourself in every single area. So if it's love, you guys heard me say, for those of you who didn't hear the first show, is that I had 2 divorces. I couldn't love myself. So how am I going to love someone else? Because in our own heads too, depending on how we were brought up, love is displayed differently. My mother never said that she loved me, but she had acts of service. So we have to know, you know what? Think about it. Our love language. We have to know our love language. What's your love? I asked some women, what's your love language? They go, what do you mean? And I say, go take this love language, go to 5 love language, Google it. And I want you to take the test. Because once again, you're complaining that your husband or your boyfriend is not loving you the way, but are you?
Oh, acts of service to yourself. Right? Yeah, you would take every chapter and go, am I doing that to me? Am I affirming me? Am I doing little gifts for me? Am I words of affirmation to me?
Are you spending time with you?
Yeah, are you spending time with you?
Quality time, not just watching TV, but are you spending time? We are looking for validation from others that we're not willing to do for ourselves. Come on now, I had to go through this to realize that. And we like to love people from our love language, really?
Yeah.
The same thing. So learn your love language. And when you learn your love language, guess what happens? You want to learn someone else's so that you know how you want to be loved. See, when I was getting a divorce, I had not been to church for like 12 years because I was mad at God, and that's a whole different story there. But I had not been to church, and one of the things I said is, "You're going to have to send someone to get me." So he got my first husband, and he gave me a Bible, right? And I still have that Bible, even though it's all torn up. And what I realized was my husband highlighted everything that a wife was supposed to do. Come on, you already know where that's going. You already know. You already know. So I had two choices, lady. I had two choices. This was my choice. I could get pissed. Slow to anger, quick to listen, slow to speak.
Yeah.
Or I could learn from it. Because he was concentrating so much on what I was supposed to do, he forgot. It's the same thing with the love language.
Yeah.
You want someone else to go buy your own gift, and you might not return it. Hey, hint, hint, hint. You know?
Yep.
Acts of service, touch. Touch means more than sexuality. Like you say, music, that touches me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last time you dance with yourself. I'm doing 75 hard now, and when it rains, you know what I do? I decide I'm gonna put some music on, exercise, I'm gonna dance. My neighbors think I'm crazy, y'all, but that's what I do when it rains. The other day, I was like, oh my gosh, my socks, you could wring it out. And when I was done, you can't get mad. You have to start doing things that loves you. See, when you give of yourself like that, it makes it easier to love someone. If you ever see someone, they're smiling all the time, what makes them, why don't you sit down and have a conversation? Because you need to know what their journey was. Because when they made a decision, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. If you are not getting the love that you want, then walk in love with you and watch and see. Law of attraction, it's addicting. We don't even, that's what I say. We're just like, what do you mean you want him to do this? But do you do that for you? That's very easy. Date yourself. And that's what happened, because my second husband, this is how I started. I intentionally did not date for 3 years. I remember going out on my birthday. Can you imagine going out on your birthday by yourself? Like, I don't have no friends, but I intentionally did it.
Yeah.
I wanted to spend time with me. And I remember at the end of the night, this gentleman almost broke his neck trying to open the door for me. Yeah. And then he said to me, what's a pretty woman like you doing out all by yourself? And I looked at him and said, if I don't enjoy my own company, then why would I want someone else want to spend time with me? And I also take trips alone. You know what's beautiful about taking trips alone? What's beautiful is that you get up when you want to. You can go work out if you want to. You can go to whatever restaurant. We spend most of our time discussing with our girlfriends or a significant other where you want to go. Vacation. Let's just go outside. Right. So it's all about, I am going to get a shirt though, the next time I travel, that says just me.
That's cool. That's
when
cool.
When you're on a resort, they, you know, it's almost
oh,
like,
yeah.
how many? Just you? And then they start taking away the silverware for the other. True story. I'm telling you.
I know.
They start taking it away. But guess what? If you're walking in unforgiveness and anger, nothing good's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
But because I just laugh. And it's all an adventure. That's what it is. Love and forgiveness. Let me tell you something. When I realized all the things that I missed because I was walking around mad at the world and upset for people. And then when I thought back, I was like, why am I mad anyways? Right? That's when you know it's, Yeah.
Well, and sometimes you don't even know. Like sometimes there's been so much time passed, or people, they're like, that was so long ago that it doesn't affect me now. But that may or may not be true, because we are, like they say, an onion. And as you evolve and go to that next level and have your experiences in life, sometimes that stuff seems very minimal. And then sometimes something can trigger it and it's very alive. It's very alive. Just one little thing. I was talking to a girlfriend this morning that I kind of talked off the roof. I call it a bridge day. You know, it's like, okay, you're not jumping today.
Yes.
So, and all it was someone called with this incredible story of them saving someone from a fire, and
Wow.
she had been saved by a fire. And it was a great story, but it buried her. You know, it wasn't even a bad thing that happened. It wasn't anything, but it just triggered her world. And it was, you know, then I needed to talk her off the bridge. And she wasn't going to jump. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. I know.
Emotional place. And so sometimes you can be triggered. I mean, I think what you're saying is about, like, revisiting is a great idea.
Yes.
Revisiting is a great idea. If you're having some insanity, like I've been in this job before, it's just a different boss. If I've been in this place before, I'm going to be, you know, completely transparent. There's times in my 31 years of business that I'm like, how did I end up here again? Or this isn't where I thought it was going to be, or, right? And you have to sometimes revisit. Like, are you really not pissed off? Like, really? Are you really not pissed off? Or, you know, what mistakes did I make in the last 10 years that I need to forgive myself for? I love that, because sometimes we just make the best mistakes.
But you're growing. That's the whole thing about growing.
Yeah.
Grow the most in your uncomfortable places. So you got to go back to a place that you once was uncomfortable with, because now you can deal with it and look at it and say, oh my gosh. Because for me, it's like, okay, Adam, Steve, Joe, they're all the same guy. Do you know how empowering it was that my relationship that I had last, hopefully he doesn't watch this, but
if it's you, just turn it off right now, honey.
The relationship, nothing was wrong, but he reminded me of, I knew this was just another, he just had a different name. I knew where it was going to go before it went there. So I said to him, I can't date you anymore. And he goes, why? I said, I choose me. He goes, what? I said, I choose me. I don't need to go in another month to know that this is not it. But when I have glass from ceiling to and when he left, I hope he didn't see me. I was dancing. I never danced for a breakup ever. And I was like, God, thank you so much. You just saved me from what? But it had to come back with, before him, I revisited some places. So I was able to recognize that if you don't revisit a place, you'll never know the route. You'll never know the route. You'll always take the long way, and there's a shortcut.
I think also when you recognize, like you're talking about forgiveness and having that reflection, it really does shorten the time. Like when you can really celebrate like that, like, I mean, I would want to dance for you. I know what it's like to let something go on a little too long, or you've invested in, or, I mean, whatever it is, right? It could even be an idea with your business or an idea that you're working on, and you're like, you know, when there's something that needs some changing in it, you know, when there's something needs to, and when, to me, it sounds like you made a decision for you, and it was like, woo, like, you know, boundaries 101, you know?
Yeah.
You know, did we ever have a chance to know what boundaries were? Doesn't sound like from some of the stuff that you shared in your first, you had to learn what your boundaries were, what was appropriate for you, what wasn't appropriate for you, and then you get to celebrate as you honor those in yourself as you start to get wise, right?
That's right. And it's all about the journey and the process of becoming, you know, filling that hole yourself. It's all a part of that. And we should celebrate those moments. Yeah. Don't let it pass, because listen, when you were in agony, you were boo-hooing. So yes, dance. Oh Lord, I forgot I had windows like that.
Okay, look, I know that we've had lots and lots of really, I mean, I'm visually there. I'm with you when we started this, because we've got 4 more powerhouse sessions to do with everybody. So look, we've talked about, if you haven't gone back and listened to the story, right? When we talk about this transformation, you guys are going to go through kind of like from pain to freedom, from pain to joy, from pain to transformation, from pain to passion, from pain to winning the game, right? Yes. So the first series that we did, or the first time that we got together and talked, you talked about really going back into that, what it meant and what some of that uncovering looked like and what people could do to uncover. Here we are starting to travel now. We're traveling through that world of self-love and forgiveness and what that looks like. And your suggestion around writing this letter, writing a letter to yourself. Anything else before we let people travel into the third time with us? What else?
Real easy. When it comes to the love and forgiveness, that's a journey you have to travel on yourself, because it requires you to go back, like you said before. So don't try to bring everybody into it, because then that's just confusion. This is your process.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. But that's all I have.
That's a lot. That's some great stuff.
That's all I have.
But it takes you to dancing in your living room when you say something that's self-affirming, right? I mean, that's what makes people, if it's like, well, how do you know when it's the right decision? If you're dancing in the living room and your socks are wet, then you made the right decision. But we know, right? Sometimes it's so scary to love self above other people. Sometimes it's just so scary. So here's something I did for my girlfriend today. And for all of you listeners, this is what I needed to do for her today. Because sometimes it's tough to do it for yourself, is like, I'm going to give you permission. Yeah. I'm going to give you permission. I needed to give her permission to take the rest of the day off. Right. So I'm going to give you permission to take the time to write your letter. Honestly, if you're not finding the time to write the letter that Barbara's talking about, that's a disservice of act of love, right? Because you're not setting the time aside and doing what it is that you need to do to get better with you. So that, even from the sense that the world responds in a way that you want to, friend-wise, partner-wise, financially wise, respect from your kids wise, all of those things start to change when you take time to do this. So I'm just going to give you permission. I'm also going to give you permission to go hop on. Sweetie, where can they find you? You guys know she's speaking at the Stand Up, Speak Up and Show Up 8 times. Now you know why. She's on debdrummond.com. You go to the podcast there. She's there. You go to the Summit Series schedule. She's there all the way till May 2024. You go to the YouTube channel at Deb Drummond, and you are going to see her, not only these series, but all the speakings. That's where you can tap into her through us. But she's got a super easy way that you can connect right now.
I have befrankspeaks.com. Real easy. Be Frank. That's who I am. Speaks.com. Okay. Or you can go on Instagram. I am befranks. Right. Yeah. And I do also do boot camps and master classes probably once every couple months. So I'm there.
I was just going to say that. Author, inspirational speaker, if you're looking to have someone at one of your parties and rock the world and rock your office and rock your business and rock yourself. I know that you cover all of that. This woman's like me, you guys. It's plane, train, automobiles, right? You can have her from where you are today, or she talks about. It was funny. I was watching a show. I'll get into that another time. I was watching a show of when someone meets and the way that he was putting it, it's like his 1 sugar, 1 cream friends. We're 1 sugar, 1 cream friends. When you get on the plane and they're like, would you like tea? Yes. Here's your 1 sugar, 1 cream. He's like, my friends. He goes, they're my 1 sugar, 1 cream friends. And so we plane, train, and automobile to people, but you also have things that are ongoing that people can tap into. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, you guys, look, you are, as always, the most incredible audience. I thank you so much. Keep sharing, keep shining, keep being you. Pop over to Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up. We expect to see you on the 8th day of every single month, all the way to February, all the way to March 8th, 2024. And then we have some things more in store for you. So we'll see you there. Thank you. Be well. Stay groovy. And Barbara, I'll see you pretty quick here.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.